Alright, people. I apologize for that interruption. Let's just see if we can get this back out there. Apologies, that's a lot better. The thing was on this end, I don't know what it had been doing, but hopefully that's a lot better. Apologies. Afwan, lo siento for the disruptions. I'm just going to share this and we'll get straight on our way. Right, so yeah, but that's a lot better. That's sorted. I realized what it was. It was some. So, un momento. I'm just sharing this. Right, so people, I'll just let everybody log back on. Right, here it is. Alright. Let's share this. Wa alaikum assalam, Rahizi. You're doing it. Zara, alaikum assalam. Imam Hassan is in the house. That's what we're talking about, people. Imam Sahib, you're doing it. Right, I'm just sharing this. And my battery on this is dying. So, ahlan wa sahlan, folks. Ahlan wa sahlan. I take it this is done. Na'am. Alright, so how are we, people? I was just discussing before I had to reset that about how this last week there was this crazy exorcism story, but it's just, this is unfortunately the sad state of the Muslims, isn't it? It's like, so you get this guy out there, you know, as I was saying, kind of dressed like he's either just come back from Vietnam or he's a reincarnation of Chuck Norris, and he's got this woman dressed like God knows. I mean, just the state of it, just looking at her was like, what the hell? And most people were thinking that's a man in a burqa. But so no wonder she thinks she's possessed. So these kind of things are bad news for Islam, because they make such a mockery of Islam that atheists all combined couldn't do. Alright, people. Alright, those of you just tuning in, click like, click share, get this out there. What's that? He charges £60 and spits at you at the end. Nutty, 60 pounds. What kind of what's this spitting thing? What's maybe this is a new generation thing that we're not. I guess whatever floats your boat, huh? Will you be attending the NAC seminar this weekend? Alright, I will endeavor. Let's see. You know what it is, as a vampire, I usually don't socialize much during the day, during daylight hours, but let's see. Is the Mark and Block crew ready? Are you Muslim or Ahmadi? Whoa! Whoa! Are you Qadiyani? Are you Qadiyani? Why the hell am I a Qadiyani? That's like, wow, what a question. Says that shooting stars, is it permissible to wear skirts? Wear what? To wear shirts? Huh? To wear skirts? Herman, you nutty, contain crosses. If it's a football club crest. Okay, so, am I Ahmadiyya? Right, listen guys, I'm not a Qadiyani. I'm not a Qadiyani. Okay, calm yourselves down with your questions, for God's sake. If I was thinking that Ghulam Ahmad Mirza Qadiani was a new prophet, then I would seriously need some I would need some serious psychiatric help. Yeah, so I'm definitely not that. I mean, you just have to look at the guy to know that, well, God definitely didn't send you. I mean, if God sent somebody looking like that, that'll just be such a disappointment. It would be like, damn. like, come on, bro. From all of humanity, you telling me God couldn't find somebody with a bit of style? That the only person he found was you. That's got to be a real downer. So in that sense, I kind of feel sorry for Qadianis in that sense, because that's their leader. So they got to kind of look at him, and you know that photo where he's got like that tablecloth wrapped round. He looks like one of those proper, like, Ranjit Singh, you know, one of those proper Sikh type of turbans. And I just think, damn, God, you got to be. I feel your pain. I feel your pain. Anyway, moving forward, right? So, Alaikum Assalam. Well, it's awesome to see you all as well. It's awesome to see you all. Right, right, what are some of the questions, people? What else has been going on? I suppose while some people are logging in, what are we saying? Can you explain to us what Fitrah is? That's actually a very interesting question, you know. That is an interesting question. Maj, it's nice to see you too. Likewise, the rest of you. Solomon, all right. Que te cuentas? Solomon, how's it going, man? How's it going? Right, so why you shave whilst we've got Afghanistan is on the line to me, people, and Afghanistan is saying, why you shave your beard half? Why you shave your beard half? I don't know why half, you know. I shave from this part here, you know, and this part, because if I shave full, I might get confused with the dancing boys, you know, you know, Afghanistan, you know what I mean now, you know. But I suppose I'm too old for a dancing boy now, because I watched that clip on social media where the guys in the interview says they kind of accept them up until the age of 25. So I'm too old for that, I'm afraid. You know, I won't quite I won't quite get that attention, I'm afraid. So, right. That one, not nice, that one, you know. But God, you see, that's what segregation breeds, that, people. It breeds this kind of perversion. To hell with segregation. That's what it does. So, but anyway, coming back to, there was an interesting question. No, not an interesting one about Bachabazi. Hernan asks, Cortez, hey, ¿qué estás diciendo about Bachabazi? Right, so let's, speaking about, first of all, Fitrah. Fitrah means, in my understanding, like a natural disposition in line with what would be reason. Okay, reason is the kind of, you see, what I don't mean by, reason in philosophy is often equated to things like inductive reasoning, deductive. I don't mean like in that technical sense, but generally reason. Things which have coherence in the human mind with shared intersubjectivity, that that humans can relate to that as a kind of objective measure, like it makes sense. I suppose a lesser version of that is like saying common sense, but reason would be a more calculated version of common sense in that, if that makes any sense. Someone just got blocked. No, I'm not sure if, by the way, you know when I'm pressing this on the screen, I'm not always blocking. What it is this kind of caption keeps coming up. It's not one of those pop-ups. Behave, people, behave. I wouldn't use this iPad for that. I've got a different iPad for all of those uses. So the thing is that this kind of, I have to kind of close this little window that comes up about memory or something, I don't know, about storage or something. So bro, beard is not for style. Beard is for what? It's for Jannah. Now just tell me, does that make any sense? That God who created this cosmos, yeah, such a great and magnificent creator, so sophisticated beyond measure, so intelligent, if we can use the word, if we're using the word intelligent, with all this intricate design, and all, you know, from the infinite to the infinitesimal, the cosmos to the quantum, yeah. Yet he's obsessed about how men allow the hair on their face to be shaped. He's obviously so obsessed that he forgot to even tell us that it's necessary. And then the Prophet obviously forgot to tell us as well. So, but luckily, but relax, people, relax, because albeit that Allah and His Messenger forgot, but praise be to Allah, the God Squad, the God Squad have got this. So even if Allah and His Messenger, you know, they didn't know these rulings, or they forgot to tell us, but the God Squad are here to say, don't worry, I got this. Don't worry about it. Allah, I got this. People must have a beard. If you want to go to Jannah, you must have a big beard, you know. Really? You must have big beard to go Jannah. What kind of a pathetic notion of paradise is that? Seriously, you must have a big beard to gain entry. So I read this on the beard. Check this out. I had this, you know, this, you get these kind of viral WhatsApp messages. So I got this message saying, it was in Urdu. So it was one of those, it wasn't to me, but it was like somebody messaging, sending it out to loads of people. Some Maulana, and he's speaking about the beard, and he goes, Dhari. He said, Allah, the beard is such that Allah has given it the capability to grow on a man's face, so it may be known that he's a man. And he may be distinguished from women. But the man, this is what the text message said, पर कुछ ऐसे मर्द होते हैं, like कुछ ऐसे हजरात होते हैं, some of these people who continuously shave it to tell people, actually we're not men. But then the beard is so stubborn that it keeps coming back to remind him, no, you are a man. This was the message. I mean, I was like, I'm pretty sure, I mean, I might be going out on a limb here. This might be a shot in the dark, but I'm pretty sure that there's another feature about me that makes me a man. I wonder what that could be. So, unfortunately to these guys, obviously that doesn't make a difference. This is why they're too busy abusing all the poor, you know, the poor. This is why all this abuse happens in these madrasas, because the younger boys haven't got beards. So to them, that's the only distinct distinguishing feature for being a man. So it's like, well, since you haven't got a beard, you must then be opposite gender. So this kind of thinking, people, it is, I don't even have any words left for it. I'm so dumbfounded by this whole, I'm so dumbstruck, right? Look at that, people. This had actually been up, and now this is for all the God Squad that are going to come on and say, he's drinking with his left hand, so God has sent me. All right, people, let's take some questions. What are we dealing with? Please find my PM in your inbox. I don't know what you mean. Let's see. Let's go a bit earlier on, people. What's your view on al-Albani? Is he qualified to be a muhaddith? Of course, I think al-Albani is qualified to be a muhaddith, of course. He's obviously passed away. He's a major... He was like the nitro boost to the Salafi movement. And he really put some power into the Salafi kind of movement. So I do accept that he was a muhaddith. I think it's absurd trying to say he wasn't. Doesn't mean I have to agree with him. Let's see. What topic of conversation were you having with Sheikh Atabek? Yeah, this was we had an awesome visit. We were graced with the presence of Sheikh Atabek, and he's an amazing scholar from up north. I'm sorry, I'm just trying to read some messages at the same time. And he came down. He was a great, awesome, and amazing genius of a man, I have to say. I think so. And we had some really delightful discussions, some of which I can tell you, and others I can't. Classified, people, classified. So, but we had some really interesting discussions on the formation of the Hanafi madhab and the kind of inter-rivalries that occurred within the Hanafi school very early on, and how the spotlight was stolen away from Imam Abu Hanifa. And I found him, Sheikh Atabek, to be a man of incredible insight, I have to say. I've only met up with him on perhaps 2 or 3 occasions ever, but I absolutely do respect and I'm in awe of that kind of genius insight to certain things, especially the Hanafi madhab and his way. That said, it doesn't mean, like what happens is people become very, oh my God, if you rate somebody, you must agree with them on everything. This is like our dumb logic that we have. It's not true. I don't have to agree with him on everything, but I do think that's... Is swallowing halal? Whoa. I mean, whoa. How did that discussion follow on from what I'm talking about? I mean, how does your mind wander? That's what I'm thinking. How do you guys make cognitive links between things? But I'll come to your question, don't worry. Are you qualified to give fatwa? Claro que sí. Hell yeah. That's what I'm talking about. Of course, I'm qualified to give fatwa. I is a Mufti, people. That's what I'm talking. People are like, why do you use the title Mufti? Why do you use the word Mufti? Why do you use the word? Because I love this achievement of my life. This is one of the greatest achievements and one of the most amazing blessings of God to me. So I absolutely love it. Hell yeah. So my question is, why not? Why not, people? Gender neutral. I'm not sure what do you mean gender neutral? Don't mock it, please. MashaAllah. Are you watching Tugral? No, I haven't watched it yet. Shazad, give it a rest. Right, if anybody's trolling, mock and block crew. ما رأيك عن مسلسلات التركية خصوصا what is it التغرل. I haven't watched التغرل, but I think مسلسلات TV series are the thing, isn't it? It's the thing of this, of our, it's movies seem to be the new movies. People want detail. They want you to build a character. They want you to they want to really get into it, isn't it? This is like, you got to be, if you're not watching things, you're just not in the scene. You're deprived. I would say, what? Of course, these things are all from the blessings of God, people. It's like you get to experience lives, stories, plots. You learn narratives, you learn discussions. Thought-provoking. It's awesome. Did the minbar of the Prophet actually speak? I answered that last week where I said it didn't, and I did demonstrate how those ahadith all have problems in them, in their chains. Please recommend some authentic books about Imam Abu Hanifa. That's a difficult one. I think maybe people like Sheikh Atabek, you could reach out to him. The problem is, you see, with books over time, we have to remember there's been a lot of censorship. So scholars have kept kind of filtering things and allowing things which they want. And then other people come and they standardize. And then somebody else comes and they standardize. And then what you're left with is the standardization, or a kind of certain people. It's not necessarily Islam as you knew it, or as it ought to be. Beam, no idea what that means. So let's take a look at another question. Till then, somebody asked, okay, since I'll answer the question then, what the hell, since this is live and unrestricted, people, unrestricted, and I always put the fire emoji. So since Rafe has asked the question, I wouldn't want him to be deprived. So guys, brace yourselves. Brace. This is this is now the aircraft crew saying brace. So he's asked the question about fluids and their consumption, aka the technical term swallowing. So now, like many things in Islam, there is a difference of opinion on these matters. I would say that, first of all, there's no harm in discussing. Don't need to freak out, people. Don't need to freak out. Many people have said that it is, to many people, it is not considered impure, these fluids. Although people may find them disgusting or not, arguably, each to their own. But it is, if, according to many people, it's not impure, including the entire Shafi'i madhab, the Hanbali madhab, much of the Hanbali madhab, some of the Malikiyah have kind of gone that way, and then there's a difference of opinion. So based on that, if you want, what the hell, it's all. In my understanding, these things are not haram. Okay, these things are not haram, and all by default is permissible unless overwhelmingly proven to the contrary. Okay, so there you go. You're a bloke and you would say that. Well, is it because I know the truth and I'm anyway, I'm just simply answering from an objective. This is an unbiased, objective position, right? No, you need to pause the imagination, people. Okay, so right, there's going to be another Jummah khutbah coming my way. There's going to be some people standing up saying, Inna alhamdulillah wa kafa wa inna minan nasi shayateen taqul. These shayateen, they say and they teach and I'm going to get all these fatwa coming my way. But nevertheless, you see, here I am saying the truth. Qa'ilul haq. Standing up for the truth, people, even if it is bitter. Right, so now I'm moving on to another question, right? Before everybody starts going, what the hell, and I start getting mega blacklisted. Okay, right, so let's have another question. Somebody's saying, I'm not have questions, but I just want hear it. No hay problema. Ninguna problema. You can hear it all you want, loud and proud. Right, that's an interesting question, but about the Quran thing, and I'll come to that. Requires a bit. I predict some more messy actions will happen tonight, guys. I'm simply here relaying the true information to people. That's all. So, please elaborate on the hadith about vision and seeing Allah. Is this hadith sahih? Who's seeing Allah? The Prophet seeing Allah? That was just in a vision. I explained that was just a vision. What kind of drama is this? What kind of drama is this? ये क्या हो रहा है ये? क्या है ये बदतमीजी और ये बकवास? This one is not a drama, my friend. This is not one of those Star Plus dramas. Saas bhi kabhi bahu thi. This isn't one of those. This is Facebook Q&A live, Monday nights with Mufti, live and unrestricted. You got to pay the jizya. Oh my God, I've triggered everybody, haven't I? There's gonna be some chaos. I predict some chaos ensuing tonight. So, right, let's take a look at another question. Right, so what are we looking at? When are you planning to visit India? All right, Ilyas, Sheikh G. I would love to visit India. That's what I'm talking about. Phir bhi dil hai Hindustani. That's what I'm talking about. Although I do get a bit freaked out with, I think India, some parts of India are becoming more and more radical by the day. Well, okay, so any interesting questions, people coming in? Rulings on Mawlid. Oh, come on, behave. Rulings on Mawlid. Ain't we a bit late for that? I've answered that like a million times. Rulings on Mawlid. My husband is Pakistani. He doesn't like Indians. Well, I mean, I'm Pakistani, but I love Indians. I'm all about the love, people. I'm nothing, but I'm all about the love. That's what it is. It's people that they're not about the love. That's what. Salam, my akhi. Wa alaykum as-salam, my akhi. So, Pakistan is already entirely radical. I believe many parts are, but I think, I agree with you. I think that whole part of the world is a bit crazy. Rulings on earrings for men. That's an interesting one. Qasim Aziz Khalis, meanwhile, goes, your laugh is fake. Oh, your laugh is fake. But Khalis, first of all, can I just ask you, what on earth is that as a surname? Are you trying to spell Khalis? That's with a kha. Repeat after me. Kha, not ka. Your surname is fake. So, if my laughter is fake, your surname is fake. So, it's Khalis. Khalis. Okay, pure. Right, so, think you were just compared to Satan. Alright. I wouldn't have it any other way. That's what I'm talking about. Right, what questions are we looking at? Can you explain the story of Dajjal? I have explained that, look, I don't believe Dajjal to be this kind of one-eyed cyclops, Greek mythology kind of one-eyed man coming around. I don't believe that. What I believe is when the word Dajjal has come in certain hadith, the Prophet was either talking about numerous things. One, either about the devil, as in shaitan, Satan, or he was speaking about general imposters who would come and claim to be prophets, or he was talking about a time will come when reality will be inseparable from illusion. And I kind of like that interpretation. Black Mirror people. Ooh, look at that. Ooh. Right, so I don't really buy into the one-eyed, hey, I'm God. Because that's really a bit silly, isn't it, when you think about it? Because if God gives, think about it. For people to become Muslim, they're not allowed to see any hardcore evidence. They're not allowed, like if a person said, I want to believe it, what did the non-Muslims say to the Prophet, the kuffar of Quraysh? That just show us one thing, like send somebody down, or make there be a garden here, and make there be a river that flows, and we'll believe in you. Just one thing, one sign. And Allah said, don't be absurd. Don't be absurd. Then it wouldn't be faith. But when it comes to the Antichrist, oh, somebody's going to say, okay, show me a sign, and he's going to show all these miracles, like bring me back from the dead, do all this kind of stuff. Now, obviously, people are going to believe. And then somebody's going to say, but that's the test. But that's just silly, because what you're asking, that's like a sick test. That's just like, I'm going to show you evidence for something, but if you believe it, that's like a sick joke. That doesn't make any, that's like, what? Why would you do that though? But that's the test. No, because that's absurd, because you're showing me concrete evidence and you're telling me not to believe in it, but at the same time you're telling me to base things on reason. So, and then if I do believe in it, you're gonna torture me. Like, what? See, this vision of God is a wrong understanding of God. God is about mercy, people. God is about compassion. It's about love. It's not about this kind of sadistic games with people. It's kind of like, watch how I trip them up. It's like, what the hell's that about? It's like, we used to have this teacher in madrasa, yeah. So this teacher, he made it, I remember we would have like termly exams every 3 months. Every semester we'd have an exam. So I remember he set an exam paper once. And he said, like some of the students asked him, Acha Maulana Sahab, wo acha paper, about the paper, the exam paper, kaisa hoga, like how is it going to be and this and that. He goes, watch. He goes, the way I've made the questions this term. He goes, pass karke dikha dena. Like, you just watch, just show me if you can pass. I'll rate you, watch. And I was like, what? That's dumb. Like, that's you're supposed to be testing us if we've learnt the stuff. You're not supposed to be setting us up to fail. That's like a sick game. like, watch, like I'm going to trick you. I'm going to make it so difficult you'll never pass. Like, what's the point of that? That's not how tests are meant to be. You're meant to test us that if we've done the stuff, we should pass. Not like, watch, if anybody passes this, I'll rate them. That's just like a sick joke. So, yeah, so anyway. Right, so, what are we doing, people? What are we doing? Next question. Pregunta, ¿cuál es? Right, people, what are we looking at? Why did Imam Abu Hanifa consider riba, gambling, mubah when dealing with non-Muslims? That is an interesting question. I do believe that Imam Abu Hanifa had immense insight and was a legend of a man, a genius of an Islamic scholar who, unfortunately, I feel was betrayed by his inheritors. The Hanafis did the greatest injustice, I think, to Imam Abu Hanifa by radically changing his madhab and kind of betraying his true personality and his vision. But he had this understanding that Imam Abu Hanifa in his time felt that, look, these things, these rulings are social rulings, like riba, because they're based on exploitation, they're based on certain social narratives. If you were in a non-Muslim world at that time, not today, because today the world has changed and the narrative has changed, but in his time, if you were in a part of the world that didn't have this social narrative, he felt that these rulings would be redundant then. They wouldn't make any sense. So things like, I don't know about so much about gambling arguably, but riba and stuff like this, he felt in his day and age would be inapplicable in non-Muslim territories. Today, I feel the whole institution, this whole topic of riba is out of sync, because the world economy has changed since the industrial and economic revolution of the world. Now, everything has changed. So I would advise you, those of you that haven't watched my clip on riba, to watch it. Riba was speaking about exploitation. It wasn't speaking simply about taking something like double, like so for example, it wasn't, look, listen, if you give me this, I'll charge you this. It was about the exploitative element that was deemed unacceptably, intolerably haram. That was utter an abomination, because people, and you've got to remember, the reason for this was wealth was restricted. Wealth was gold. Now, there was only a finite amount of gold in a particular region. You couldn't kind of generate wealth out of thin air. Now, the way human beings have been on a trajectory, we have obviously moved away from all of that. We took it to the de-elementization of money and took it to paper, and that was like money 2.0. And we are now working towards money 3.0, where we would eradicate all we would eradicate any physical money in the future, and everything will be digitalized. That will be perhaps in our lifetimes. But money is an interesting phenomenon, because money really is the greatest story human beings ever told. Make no mistake, people. It is the greatest of all imaginative realities that human beings have conjured up. There have been 3 imaginative realities that have managed to set mankind on a trajectory for unification, to unite people. Those 3 have been religion, empire, and money. And where God and kings have failed, people, money has survived. And it has been successful. You will find, even, it's interesting that even in the past, when Muslim and Christian territories, like let's take Muslim Spain as a good example, when Muslim Spain collapsed in 1492, and Muslims were tortured, unfortunately, or in the beginning they were oppressed, later on tortured, but the whole oppression, and there was an entire boycott, and North Africa, Maghrib, and the Northwest African region was obviously, you could say, at Cold War with the new kind of Catholic kingdom of Spain, of the Iberian Peninsula. Yet, despite and mosques were destroyed, and Christians and Muslims were killed on both sides, and cursed and insulted and denigrated, yet whilst all that was going on, the Christians would have no qualms in printing gold pieces that had on it La ilaha illallah, that there is no God but Allah, to trade with the Muslims of North Africa. Likewise, the Muslims of North Africa, despite hating their Catholic counterparts, would have no problem in minting a gold coin with the crucifix on there to trade with their European counterparts. Because where gods and kings have failed, people, dinero, money, has succeeded. It is It is unquestionably the greatest, one of the greatest stories that man or humans have ever invented. And it is testament to the genius of this being that Allah created. This human, this figure that Allah created, has set up so many imaginative realities. They have no existence. Yet through it we change the world. We feed people. They are fed, they are clothed, they are taken care of, they have security, they prosper, they have happiness in their life, they manage to accomplish things. They all on the basis of just an imaginative reality. And that, people, is where Allah said to the angels that inni a'lamu ma la ta'lamun, that about this insan I know that which you cannot fathom. This insan is something else. He is another thing altogether. So it's not just about money. I don't mean to say this about money per se. I'm not saying this out of a greed aspect. I'm saying this out of an appreciation for humans' imagination. That we set into motion certain things that on the face of it are more valuable than us, and they don't even exist. Like, people will kill each other for money. So this is an interesting, and I think it ties back to the whole, like I'm saying, the whole genius of Adam's offsprings. He's Bani Adam, the children of Adam. But khair, I mean, so just to kind of put that into perspective, it's not about the actual money, it's about the story that we spun. Human beings, huh? As I read somewhere, it said you could never get a monkey to hand over his banana for the promise of infinite bananas after he dies. But insan, you could get a human to do that. And that, ladies and gentlemen, is the power of stories. So this is, these are the things, and I think we don't need to be scared of these kind of discussions. People say, oh, but if you say that, somebody might question Islam. Let them question Islam. We shouldn't be insecure. We should never be insecure. Faith should be such that if people want to question it, by all means question it. We should welcome. I honestly welcome people. If people have doubts, I'm a human being. We all have doubts. So we shouldn't kind of shy away from these things. Nobody's scared on giving their bananas away. But I read that and I thought, what an amazing kind of analogy. And it also said, it said that, you know, and I've mentioned this before, that if you put one man on an island and he had to survive, and if you put a monkey on an island and the monkey had to survive, you would actually put your money on the monkey. Because the monkey could out-survive a single human being in the wild. In fact, most animals, a singular animal, an individual animal, could out-survive an individual human stranded on an island. But, you get 1,000 monkeys and you get 1,000 men. 1,000 men, they could defeat any creature. No matter how abundant those creatures are. And the question is, because why? Because human beings can create stories and narratives by which they can cooperate. It's interesting. But let's move on to some of your more fascinating questions, people. I'll leave my insanities So, what are some of the questions? Let's see. That's, I guess, 3:30. Considering I'm the only Maliki in this entire region. Bir Viqas al-Aslam. Awesome stuff to hear that you are repping the school of Medina in, I believe that's Kashmir, the Indian occupied Kashmir. And obviously doing some very charitable work there. May Allah grant ease to the victims of Kashmir and the victims anywhere worldwide in humanity. I wanted to ask a question for can you give zakat to non-Muslims? Okay, I want to ask a question. The right to polygamy. Why can't a woman exercise polyandry? A woman exercising polyandry. Ek pool or do mali. You know that old, there's an old, you know these old Bollywood movie titles? Ek pool do mali. You know, one flower, two gardeners. So why can't a woman have multiple husbands? I don't know if women would really like that. Or maybe some would. I don't know. I mean, let's. You see, I'm talking about it and you're imagining it. So now I heard that in one of these cartoons. I won't go there. Okay, let's stop that. But right, so polyandry. I think, you see, science teaches us that men by nature are very polygamous. Yeah, so men naturally are just like, okay, men are just dogs, people. I'm just going to put that out there. Yeah, so they just go, it doesn't matter what. They are insatiable. That's the nature of the male species in all animals. That's how they are. Like, no point lying about it. Let's just have an honest conversation. Women are not necessarily like that. The female species are generally not like that. That's what science also teaches us after much study into diverse species. So yes, they may be interested in different partners at different times, but they're not all about that all the time like that. Like men, their brains are just wired like that. It's just evolution. They're just like Neanderthals, you see. We can't think straight. So, but women are not usually like that. So that's the answer to that question. And polyandry does occur in some parts of the world, like the Himalayan kind of cultures and stuff like this. But I think even there, it's more a man-dictated thing. It's not really... I don't think women are the ones that have kind of set it up as a... You know, women haven't done it as a, equal rights. It's more men have set it up. Maybe they've got a women shortage, or maybe they just have no problem with that as their culture. Look, this is one woman. She's a communal woman. The community have access to her. And it's like, so these kind of things. I think in some cultures that's fine. I think, like, even in these cultures, you have like swinging going on, you know, swinging going on, people, and all that kind of stuff. So, so in some cultures where people accept it, they accept it. Generally, the reason why Islam didn't kind of go with stuff like that, one, I suppose the Arabs of the time, this isn't the main culture across the world, to be fair. The main culture across the world, that's not it. And then other things, there's other issues as well with things like pregnancy, who's the father, responsibilities. I suppose you could say today DNA tests, but most of the world doesn't have access to DNA tests. So, you know, if there's just going to be an endless line of men, it's not really... healthy societies wouldn't emerge, which were needed for civilizations to advance. So that's what I would say. Polygamy, I think, you see, I think, I know, you know, the Americans have this huge thing, they're like kind of anti-polygamy and stuff. I would say that, look, I don't know how people would make it work, if it's practical or not, but generally science does agree that men have a nature where they are always just drawn to multiple women. Now, I'm sure that's not a, I mean, I don't know. I would say, look, people just figure out their own relationships. I'm not gonna comment. Feminists definitely hate me, so I think there's different types of feminists. You see, to some people, because I speak of women's rights, I believe that women ought to have rights, and that they do have rights, and Islam champions that. So to some, I suppose maybe I could be seen as a feminist. That's a stretch of the imagination, but maybe I could be seen as a feminist to some, as from that side. But generally, I think I upset, maybe with this kind of talk, a lot of people. In fact, I was reading this article about these kind of men who are very kind of, you know, always always trying to fight women's corners in. And it's not just, I think in some things that's very right and noble, and we should all do that, like human rights and equality and all these things. I think that, unquestionable, we should all be fighting that corner. But then just other dumb stuff, and really, there was this word, don't shoot me people, I'm just saying the word, the article was about this. The article was about what it was calling manginas. These men who are kind of like emasculated men. And I think really it's true. We're in a crisis of masculinity. We've got like, don't shoot me people. I'm just the messenger. I'm just telling you what the article said on social media. So, and I think these men are doing it for the same reason. They're just trying to, you know, these little kind of things like, oh my God, all men are sick, men are like this, men are like that. It's just, they're just trying to get the same attention from women. That's what I think most men think. The rest of the men think, oh, they're just trying it their own way. But anyway, let's move on to some questions. But I do think that this, you know, I was asked some questions about, obviously I get asked a lot of questions about kind of relationships and things like this. So I was asked a question, and I suppose it's in line with this, that people said, look, somebody had asked me about abuse in relationships. Now, abuse is unacceptable. Abuse is unacceptable. We have to make that clear. All right, we got Sheikh or Ustad Sahel in the house. Ahlan wa sahlan, ahlan wa sahlan. Right, those of you just tuning in, click like, click share, people, get it out there. Men can't stick to one woman. I would argue, probably agree with you, Mizzy, that that's what science teaches us as well. So this is, I think, the riddle, the divine riddle, that men and women can just never really work, can they? But it's like a divine comedy, isn't it? But anyway, I was asked this question about abuse, and I want to make it clear that abuse is categorically wrong, unacceptable. Starting at the top end of things like physical abuse, that obviously to hit somebody doesn't make you a man, all right? Use violence doesn't make you a man. That kind of stuff, in fact, is probably because you're insecure. It most likely is because you're insecure. So clarify these kind of things, right? Insulting, swearing, denigrating, controlling, all these things are forms of abuse. Control, being kind of very debasing kind of behavior, looking down upon, degrading women, this kind of stuff, unacceptable. Okay, so I want to clarify that is abuse, clearly. That form of neglect, being kind of, if you're in a relationship with somebody, like, whoa, being all very kind of heavy, present, and, you know, like telling people to shut up all the time or want it. This kind of stuff, I would feel, is unacceptable. But I want to add something here. I want to add something, and that is that, you see, I think there is some confusion on abuse. Because all of this is abuse. I totally support condemning all of this kind of nonsensical behavior. But then there's other aspects which sometimes people will say abuse too, and that is that some people they translate hurt as abuse. Because in abuse you get hurt, so they assume all hurt equals abuse. And that is not the case. So let me expand on this, because I was asked this as a question about abuse. And you see, some hurt, I mean, there's a lot of hurt that comes from abuse, but there's some hurt that comes from disappointments. That is not abuse. That is disappointment. So, for example, let's say you have a friend, one of your friends, and your friend decides to, let's say you were going to go somewhere on a holiday or you were going to do something. But your friend decides to go with another friend. That person's not your friend. Let's say he decides to go with somebody else. Doesn't go with you. You would be hurt. You would be hurt. That's true. You would be hurt. But you haven't been abused. There's a difference. You've been disappointed. Let's say your friend no longer spends that much time with you. He spends time with another friend. You would be hurt. But you've not been abused. You've been disappointed. So, abuse is the thing that's done to you directly. So like a person coming to you and being like rude to you. But let's say somebody is good to you. Let's say your friend to you is good. Chilling, happy, laughing, whatever. But decides to not go somewhere with you. He wants to go to the movies, or he wants to go to the gym with somebody else. Making it personal now. So now, this is not emotional abuse. Because emotional abuse would be if they were insulting you, if they were taunting you, if they were denigrating you, torturing you on an emotional level. Not the absence of what you wish them to be. That's disappointment. That's what it is. So now, this thing, you see, disappointment, now with friends, we wouldn't call that abuse. That, oh, my friend went to the movies with the other friend. I've been abused. That's dumb. But you see, people with friends, they recognize that to be absurd. But in relationships, all of a sudden, they don't make that distinction. So let's say people will say, oh, like I've heard some people say, my husband goes out with his friends. So I've asked them, but how is he with you? And they might say, oh, he's okay with me, but why does he go out with his friends? This is like he's not giving me his time. This is neglect. This is abuse. And you think, well, no, that isn't actually abuse. That's just disappointment. Like you want to control him, let's say. But if it's the other way round, let's say if a man was controlling a woman, it would be all, all hell would break loose. But this way round, it would be seen as, oh, that he's wrong. So I'm just giving an example that people need to understand and make a distinction between disappointment and between abuse. I'm sorry, Abu Muhammad Hamadar. Alright, doing it, bro, dude. This is a shout out, special shout out going out for Dar right there. The Hammer from London. Right, so now, very similar to what happened with the... I'm not sure about the Aziz Ansari controversy, but I thought it's important to mention this because nowadays it's too easy. I think sometimes the term abuse is abused. I think abuse has to be treated seriously, but sometimes this term itself is abused. Like anytime somebody's upset, they would cry abuse. And I think that then takes away from the true victims of abuse. You know, it's like those women who said that they got really offended about the BBC kind of scandal, saying that, look, we're actual rape victims and you guys are doing this hoo-ha about a guy, you know, put his finger, like he touched my kneecap. Like, so this was an interesting kind of thing that was in the media, in the BBC about a month ago. So I just thought I'd touch up because I had some questions on that. Right, let's move on to the next question. Recommend any hadith scholars? Let's see any hadith scholars. There's many great. If you mean here today, Sheikh Akram Nadwi is an amazing scholar. He lives in Oxford and he's got quite a few things online. So if you reach out to him and watch his stuff, inshallah. Ahlan wa sahlan, Bir Waqar, Zara, Nadim, ahlan wa sahlan. Jimmy, those of you just tuning in, click like, click share, people, get this out there. Is it okay if I'm watching this live whilst fil hammam? What do you mean by the hammam there, bro? Why are you watching me? Sheikh Yunus Jaunpuri, of course, Sheikh Yunus Jaunpuri was an amazing scholar of hadith. I mean, there's many scholars of hadith, Sheikh Judai, many people are around today, I mean, that are that have looked into hadith and done research on them. It all depends on what you're trying to look into. Saima Sahir is saying, I refuse to share it, I'm too scared. Look at that. Face your fears. Face your fears, people. Click share, click like, get this out there. Let it be known. Who was Junaid al-Baghdadi? Junaid Baghdadi is arguably a scholar from the past who is more so known for his role in kind of Sufi circles, tasawwuf. He was all about kind of spiritualism, but also that kind of mysticism, which he's a huge figure. I mean, he's generally a respected figure within Islam, but he's a highly venerated figure within Sufi, the Sufi circles of Islam. Join the dark side. Why do you think about halwa? Halwa. I don't think about halwa. Free Zain Hussein. Okay. Guys, let Zain Hussein go. Whoever that is, I don't even know who that is. But why are you asking me to free him? Okay, guys, you can take off those handcuffs and yeah. I'm sorry, we mistook you for somebody else we were expecting. Well, your opinion on, you see, I'm not sure I fully understand the Itmam. I think it's called the Itmam al-hujjah, but I think I, in essence, see sense. I think Allama Javed Ghamidi Saab has, in some of his speeches, spoken about how he believes that in the Prophet's time, when the Prophet wrote letters and things to certain non-Muslims, with that he kind of sealed. I need to really fully understand, make sure I mean by that, make sure I completely understand and haven't misunderstood his argument, that he feels that it's not an obligation to be taking Islam to non-Muslims. It's okay if you do, it's good if you do, but it's not an obligation. He's not the first person to say that. People like Abu Bakr ibn Arabi, and in his commentary on Tirmidhi and other books, have already said this, that it's not an obligation for Muslims to be preaching Islam. In fact, Ibn Arabi puts it to the kind of political powers. You see, it's interesting how he linked it in with politics. He put it into the ruling kind of the emperors and the dynasts, the kings. It was up to them to do things. And he said for Muslims it was just recommended, mustahab, if they did da'wah or not. And I would totally agree with that. I don't think you need to go around trying to convert people. I think it's a miracle that people convert. I totally am shocked, actually. Because have you seen the state of Muslims? It's so difficult. Muslims are so difficult, honestly. Wow. I don't know how people do it, honestly. I don't know how people do it. So, what are the origins of the black stone? The black stone. Carlos Chow. Right, so, block Sayyid Baqir. Okay, guys, can you get on it? Mock and block crew. If I see him, he'll be blocked. Right, so what's my views on Ibn Hazm? I'll come to that. Right, so some person hating on Muawiyah radiallahu an. Muawiyah radiallahu an was a legend. I admire totally Muawiyah radiallahu an. He was one of the kind of amazing, very on the ball companions of the Prophet. Seriously, he was also the brother-in-law of the Prophet. His sister was married to the Prophet, but he was he had some unique kind of characteristics to him in how he would handle situations. But I think all the companions were great in their own way. It doesn't mean because I said he's great, I'm somehow, detracting from other companions, or I'm thinking that others weren't great, or I'm not thinking, people might think, oh, so what do you think of Sayyidina Ali radiallahu an? Well, I think he was great as well. So just relax yourselves, people, relax yourselves. But people who hate on them is so absurd. I'll tell you something, people. In life, and I this is a personal lesson, but personal, people, going out to you, right? In life, try not to ever be hateful towards things. Seriously, try not. I don't think, apart from a few individuals in my life who I've come across in the past, who maybe because of what they okay, maybe as a reaction I don't like some people, maybe because they hated on me and they hate on me so bad that maybe obviously I won't like them. So that's human. I think that's fine, but I don't actually carry a hatred for them. I don't actually burn at their existence. I don't it. Honestly, it doesn't bother me at all. And I'm telling you, that's such an important thing, to have a very stress-free life. Don't hate on people. Live your own life. Be awesome. Be chill. Enjoy. Laugh. Yes, there will be people in this world that you will not like, but always try to keep it to a minimum, and maybe as a reaction. Maybe if somebody is so full of nonsense you don't like them, fine. And there may be some people you might come across for some reason you don't like them, that's fine, but don't let it be a hatred, a bitterness. Okay, honestly, I'm seriously telling you, wallahi, that is how I actually do live. And that's generally, maybe there's some things which subconsciously I'm not aware of, and therefore, they're contrary. But as far as I'm aware, that is how I actually, that is me. So there are some people I would think, what a knob, and I have no respect for, but because of what they've, maybe because of the because they're so hateful people, so I have no respect for them. But I'm not bitter about them, I'm not obsessed about them, and it doesn't bother me. They could be doing anything, their existence to me is nothing, it doesn't mean anything. So, and this is what I would advise. So, yep. So this thing of being hateful, it's important, and especially to historical figures. What's the point? Or hateful to anybody, being hateful to, being racist, being bigoted towards non-Muslims. Why? Let's face it, you are only a Muslim because you were born Muslim. Let's face it, let's be honest. Right? So being bigoted towards ethnicities, towards gender, towards women, or towards men. Why? Why hate on people? There's no... so this is what I would advise people. If I could give one message, one message, I would genuinely say that. And I think my problem is I upset people too easily. Although I find that very difficult to believe. But I think this last few days that was just tried and tested again. Through social media, some groups, I am not cut out for things like this, you know, because people can't handle me for some reason. I think I have that kind of Marmite effect on people. They either love me or they hate me. There's no kind of in between. So it's that Marmite effect. Could a Christian and a Muslim pray together? Of course they could pray together, Josh. Why not? We should, if you want to pray together. Should we be allowed to hate on men every now and then? Why be bitterful? Why be bitter? Like, and against... And I tell you something. You know, since a woman has asked this question, you see a lot of this, and I said this earlier on, and I'll just tie this into that topic I said earlier on about this kind of hardline feminazis, kind of these hard-wing kind of feminists. It's really just because, and I'm not wrong, it's really just because they've had a bad experience with some men. That's all it is, isn't it? Like, they've come across some men who they've had a bad experience with, so they hate men. But why be bitter? Like, why? Life's too short. Enjoy it. Like, yeah, there's going to be good people. There's going to be, I said already, and I'm not lying, I just put it out there, men are dogs anyway. I put that out there. But if we're going to be honest, you're going to find nice people. You're going to find, you know, pathetic, dumb people, all races, all ethnicities, all gender, whatever. You're going to find that everywhere. So there's no point. And this isn't a principled thing. You know, it's like, I got into this discussion and some people said, like, oh, what, you know, I ought to condemn men who lie to women. Like, let's say they may be cheating or they may be doing things like this, and this ought to be a kind of, and I said, look, I'm like, who am I to condemn anybody? Like, people live their own lives. Why should I be condemning? And I gave an example where I said, look, if you're talking about lying, I said people lie on their CVs. And I don't see people getting so personal about that. And somebody asked me a question, would you equate lying to women and lying on a CV as the same? I said, no, lying on a CV is actually a crime. And it's punishable by prison. Lying to women ain't a crime. I'm not condoning it. I'm not encouraging it, but it's not a crime. You know, this reminds me of and people said, you know, so we got into this discussion and these people are talking about principle. And I said, but I don't see you getting as passionate on other topics. Why are you getting so passionate here? And they're like, on principle. And I remember that poem there's an Urdu poem where the poet says that, he says, Kaun kisi aur ke khatir rota hai dost, that who is it that cries for somebody else? Kaun kisi aur ke khatir rota hai dost, sabko apni hi kisi baat pe rona aaya. He said that whenever somebody cries, it's really just because they remembered something of their own life that they're crying over. That who actually cries for somebody else? It's just triggered an internal memory of their own. That's all it is. That, you know, sabko apni hi kisi baat pe rona aaya. And that is so true. And you actually see these kind of things that even the Quran in some in the story of Yaqub and Yusuf alayhi salam and all these things, you see that when Binyamin, the other son, is held hostage or taken by the Egyptians, and they come back and tell him, tell the father, Jacob, Yaqub alayhi salam, that, oh my God, that they took the other son, Binyamin, right, Benjamin. He says that, you know, he says, Ya asafa, that, but he kind of cries out, and وَبْيَضَّتْ عَيْنَاهُ, and they say, you know, he cried so much. And he was a prophet of God. He cries so much, and he says, "Ya asafa ala Yusuf," and he remembers the tragedy of Yusuf. Although in this verse, the incident Yusuf had happened many years ago, but it shows that a tragedy kind of triggers memories of a former tragedy. So these are the thing. It's interesting that how Allah mentions that in the Quran. Zach seems to think you're the Mahdi. Oh no. God forbid. If I'm the Mahdi, you haven't got a hope in hell, mate. I'll just be like knocked out. The Dajjal would have taken over the whole world. And I'm just too busy trying to catch up on the TV series. I'm like, bloody hell. And the Muslims have been obliterated. And it's like, where's the Mahdi? Then all of a sudden I get up. You wouldn't have a hope in hell, people, if I was the Mahdi. And no, I don't believe in a Mahdi, if that's what you're asking. We have lived in an inherently male-dominated society as an inevitable part of our collective future. Of course, I'm not against women's rights. I've already said that. And I've highlighted, by the way, that I'm amongst some of the few scholars, I would argue, maybe definitely in the UK and the West, maybe even worldwide, amongst the few scholars who have argued for rulings like, for example, accidental death compensation in Islam. I've said that it must be equal amongst men and women. And yet the majority of the scholars will refuse to acknowledge that. They say that a woman would be entitled to half. And I think this kind of stuff is nonsense. It actually clashes with the Quran and Sunnah. The Sahih Hadith of the Prophet is that al-mu'minuna tatakafa'u dima'uhum, that Muslims, they are all equal, men or women. But the scholars seem to leave that hadith and they seem to go with some weak hadith. So on many issues, I champion these kind of things. So I'm not against in any way, women's rights and stuff like that. As to the question on nail polish, of course, I believe women can wear nail polish. I don't know why I'm looking at my nails. I don't wear it. Qasme, I don't. But women can wear nail polish. Quick, hide all the bottles. Qasme, I only did that as a day. It was only on the weekend. Right, so they can wear nail polish, and it is they can do wudu on top of that. I don't believe they have to remove it for wudu. Right, so that's my understanding. So I think that's fine. Women can wear that. They don't have to remove it for wudu. And I've got a video, it's on YouTube, where I go into the reasoning behind that and how even Imam Malik had different parallel issues where he had supported about rings, not having to remove them, stuff like this. Qareen, I believe that Israel has the right to exist. Keith, interesting. I mean, the thing is that, Israel is a complicated issue. I think before Israel began, I would disagree strongly with setting up any state because of the kind of violence that followed. But now that it already exists and it's not going to go away, Israel is not going to go away. Whether we like it or don't like it, it's a fact. It is there. And we have to accept that. So now our thinking needs to be pragmatic and practical. There's no point saying Israel shouldn't exist, because it does exist. No point saying go away, because they're not going to go away. So now what I would argue is to say, first of all, there should be an immediate stop of violence from both sides. Definitely from the Israelis and also from the Palestinians. But there should be a stop, an immediate stop on any kind of violence and bloodshed. Secondly, I think maybe they should they should set up a two-state solution now, that Palestine should just be a separate state, because it's not going to go anywhere else. Israel's not going to disappear, and neither is, so what can you do from a pragmatic perspective? That's what I would probably think. So it already does exist. I think the problem of Israel wouldn't have been that bad if it wasn't for the kind of violence and genocide that they conducted. I think just the Israeli thing, because there are some things which you have to kind of take your hat off to them and think, for God's sake, wow. Like, I'm actually totally wowed by the fact that they brought back a dead language to life. Honestly, because I'm really into languages, and I can't believe that they pulled that off. They actually recreated and reinvented an entire language that people now speak. And prior to the creation of the State of Israel, Hebrew was not a spoken language like that. And now it's a spoken, written in, and a living, breathing language. And they actually created that. That's a complex procedure to do something like that. But they pulled it off. Once again, it goes to show what human beings are capable of if they put their mind to it. But yeah, the thing about Israel is the kind of genocide, which is unacceptable. The war crimes that they've perpetrated. I mean, it's just a shame. It's a shame. Obviously, my talking about it can't fix anything. Not like they're going to listen to me. Unless Benjamin Netanyahu is watching me. In that case, go to hell, goddammit. You butcher. Right, so now, yeah. Next question, people. Next question. Let's take, right, there was some questions. Shall we do some rulings on Valentine's Day? Hi. Valentine's Day, you naughty. What day is Valentine? It's not a Monday, is it? Is it a Monday? Valentine's Day. Is it going to be a Monday nights with Mufti special? No. Right, but let's see. So, I'm just going to bring up some of the questions. If you want to do some rapid round, can non-Arabs make salah in their own language when alone? You see, they can make dua in their own language, but I think salah has a certain ritual to it, which is there, which we generally go with. That's my understanding. So I would say right, so that's what I would say. Okay, is it haram to paint, sculpt, draw humans or animals? Nadia Will Zaiki. No, it's not. It's absolutely fine. Al-Baqilani, not the famous Al-Baqilani from over 1,000 years ago, saying his battery's on 3%. If Abu Bakr al-Baqilani from over 1,100 years ago is saying that his battery's on 3%, then then even that is amazing, Sheikh. Yeah, Sheikh, even that is amazing. So, why don't you believe in the Mahdi? I've answered this previously in much detail. Watch my previous clips. Because there are no authentic hadith, I believe, or genuine hadith on the topic. And Ibn Khaldun has actually discussed that about the Mahdi in his book. He brings all the hadith and shows the problems in them. And, the great Maliki sociologist, scholar, Ibn Khaldun. And how this concept of Mahdi most likely crept into mainstream Islam through Shia Islam. Most likely. Said he's bigger than, I'm sure he is. You got a funny, right? What are your views on Ibn Hazm? Ibn Hazm was a legend, people. He was a legend. You gotta love Ibn Hazm, I'm telling you. He's, there are a few, I love the scholars of Islam. Historical scholars of Islam. I love them. But there are some that so come to life in front of me, honestly. I have like and amongst them is Ibn Hazm. He was amazing. He was like a Spanish Muslim from over, we're talking almost 1,000 years ago, 900 years ago or so. Plus, he lived in Cordoba in Cordoba when it was thriving. He wasn't originally from there. I think he was originally from Seville, but he moved to Cordoba, and he was from an aristocracy. It was a very wealthy kind of background to him. And then he wasn't interested in Islam as a young person, but as he grew older, he kind of developed a passion for Islam. And then he kind of adopted, his way of thinking was that we only stick to Quran and Sunnah. And he rejected analogy, making analogies on rulings. So he's written many, he was a major Hadith scholar. His book, al-Muhalla, is in print. It's an amazing book on the Sharia of Islam. He's got books, his book Ihkam in Usul al-Fiqh. He's got a book called Tawq al-Hamama, the tail of the dove or the ring of the dove. And it's about the psychology of love. Love, people, the psychology of love. It's an amazing book, honestly. It's in English, that is, as well. So you should check that out. Wa alaikum assalam. Those of you just tuning in, Ayub, Abid, Munaza, Muhammad George, Ahlan wa Sahlan. If you click like, click share. He's right. Anybody trolling is gonna get blocked, people. Right. So now, and some of the things he's really well known for, like music. Somebody's asking about music. Ibn Hazm argued passionately, demonstrating that there is nothing in Islam to show that music is prohibited. He was one of the many scholars who argued, and I'm totally in favor of that understanding. Music is not haram. And Ibn Hazm was, it's interesting because he was a done scholar. He was very aggressive in his approach, very radical in his thinking. Radical not meaning extremist, but radical meaning different. In his thinking, he challenged the scholars of his day and age. Very provocative. He would cuss the hell out of people. Oh my God, his cusses are so funny. They hilarious, honestly. And they say about him he would dress differently. They say that he would dress different. I don't know exactly how he would dress, but he says in his books they criticize my dress for being different. He had a fascination with women. Nothing wrong in that, people. So he writes, his book on love is very interesting, and he writes about that. He writes, what's interesting? Here's an interesting thing I'll share about him. In his book on love, he's speaking about features, and he says, and look at the conversations he's been having with his dad. So he speaks about when a person is infatuated with somebody, their features become dear to them. So he says, like, let's say you totally are besotted by somebody who's short, or somebody who's of a particular complexion or a particular thing. Now, other people with those features, you will also kind of be lenient towards. So he's speaking about this in his psychology of love. And he has a section where he speaks about, like, he says, so as an example, he says, like, his father told him that his father used to like blondes, like blonde women. And you got to remember that back then, in Muslim Spain, when Muslims were kind of like doing it, and back then there were huge empires, it wasn't necessarily the in thing. Like, people generally prefer dark-haired women, like black-haired or brunettes. This has usually been the kind of the whole Arab Muslim thing as well. And obviously nowadays, I suppose, in recent years, with the whole culture and the shift to the West, I suppose people may have that thing with blondes. But in his time, it was rare that people had a kind of fascination in that part of the world with blonde women. So he speaks about his dad told him that his dad had a fascination for blonde women. And then he says that himself as well. He says, and me too. He says, I find myself more attracted to blonde women. And then he says, although that's rare in this part of the world, because most men like kind of like black-eyed, black-haired women. And so he speaks about, and it's really interesting, these conversations he's having in this book. And you think in the conversations he must have been having with his dad. He must have been like, "To bete, जी अब्बा, तो तो आपको कौन सी औरतें अच्छी लगती?" Obviously, why on earth he'd be speaking Urdu, I've got no idea. نعم يا أبتي فأي النساء أحب إليك. So this whole thing is, it's very interesting, the kind of transparency of talk. That's just a little feature. He doesn't go. But what is interesting is he speaks about a certain woman he was always very fascinated by, and he used to fancy the hell out of. And he speaks about how she was never really, you know, kind of on it with him. And he speaks about how they get separated, and then he goes his way and she goes her way, and how he meets up with her many years later. But it's an interesting, but the book's not about that. That's just certain anecdotes he brings in the book. He was an amazing legend. I thought I'll mention that. His best friend was Ibn Abdul Bar, the legend of the Malikiyah, the school of Medina people, the Don of the school of Medina. And that was his best friend, Ibn Abdul Bar. And he says about him, وَمِمَّنْ أَدْرَكْنَا فِي عَصْرِنَا هَذَا. He says, and from the people who we reached in our living lifetime. He says, min ahlil ijtihad, those who were giants of, worthy of ijtihad themselves. Yusuf ibn Abdul Bar. He says the legend, Yusuf ibn Abdul Bar. So that is the kind of people we're talking about. Amazing. And although Ibn Hazm really attacks the Malikis, because he in Muslim Spain was Maliki, you see. Muslim Spain, it's called Al-Andalus, was predominantly Maliki always. So his immediate kind of antagonists were all Maliki. Hence his rivalry was against the Malikiyah. So he's kind of how do you feel about redheads? I think they're awesome, they're amazing. I think all black hair, black, brown, whatever, it's all amazing. I think the diversity of God's creatures, that's what it is. So he speaks about in his book about he's going on about these kind of things, and I think people hold that against Ibn Hazm, that he kind of attacks the Maliki. And people ask me sometimes, how come you're fond of Ibn Hazm when he hated the kind of Malikis? And I think that's not really a fair judgment because the Malikis he hated were the kind of dogmatists. And I think everybody hates dogmatists, apart from the dogmatists. Because his best friends were Maliki. Next questions, people. Let's move on. Which is somebody flirting with me? Oh, I must have missed that. So I don't see any other posts, so I don't think you could see me. Cheryl, Hannah, well, we can see you, Cheryl. Right, so welcome, bienvenidos, bienvenidos. Can you sing Ed Sheeran? I can't. Can you dye hair unnatural colours like blue? Yeah, you can if you want. In this part of the world, these things are just cultural things. Islam has no ruling against them. All Islam says is that you shouldn't upset the kind of the societal peace. So obviously in some parts of the world, that's just not a culture. And so people might freak out. Alright, so what are some questions? Let's take any thoughts on Tariq Ramadan's issue. Right, you see, obviously I don't know the reality. I don't think anybody here knows the reality. I would go with people are innocent till proven guilty. Okay, if there's a trial, he will run trial. He's been accused of certain things, of rape and stuff like this. Obviously now, things like rape are like an atrocious abomination, and it's even the word obviously kind of stirs emotions in the hearts of anybody that hears these words. And I think the sentiments against the concept of rape are good and justified. So the fact that people hate this is good. But I think just because somebody has been accused by that, we shouldn't straight away jump to conclusions. There's many cases that are disproven. There's many cases that are, for example, people have not, that they are innocent. There's many cases where, in fact, there was a recent case where the whole story was made up and a person was caught out and it was in the press and things like this. And I'm not saying that is happening here, but what I'm saying is it's not beyond any realm of imagination. So people, we should all, me included, we should just withhold judgment and let a procedure take its place. Innocent till proven guilty. Okay, that's what I go with. I mean, that's the best anybody can go with. And I would say that it's... We'll see. Right, so, what else, people? What else? Let's get some... What barbers do you go to? In Birmingham, Dino hairdressers. That's where I go, people. Is music haram in Islam? Absolutely not. In my understanding, no. What are your views on Shia mut'ah? Mut'ah is temporary marriage. But the difference with mut'ah is it's temporary marriage with an expiry date. And therefore I'm against that. Okay. But if people had a relationship, how long that relationship lasts is up to them. I don't believe we have the right to judge people. I don't believe we have the right to impose our values on other people. Look, people, we have to understand that people like people. So if they like people, let's say somebody, the scholar is right about it. If people like people, they're going to want to have sex with them. Not everybody they like, obviously, but I mean, or they like in a different way. And that's not an excuse for when Qadi Saab's trying to do that and you're like, and he's like, but I like you. But what I'm trying to say is if that is the reality, that's a human and animal reality. Therefore, people will have relationships, and Islam has put certain things in place, and if people have a relationship, as to how long that relationship lasts, it's up to them. It's not for other people to superimpose and say, no, the only way, if you want to have, if you want to be with somebody, if you want to be intimate with somebody, you got to be stuck with that person for life. I mean, it doesn't have to. This isn't Christianity. I'm just saying. So, you wouldn't accept that in any other concept in life, would you? If you said, like, the only way you can have this drink is if you only have that drink for the rest of your life. And that applies to men and women, not just to men. So, you wouldn't accept this concept with anything else in life. So, leave it to people. Leave it to the ones who want to choose. Some people may want something. They may want it to last forever. Alhamdulillah, may God bless them. Some people may not want to, last forever. May just be like a weekend. I'm going to get some serious khutbahs against me, ain't I? I'm going to get... Boy, am I going to get demonized after this. Look, I'm just being honest. I just say things that are real. People get upset. I'm not trying to say go out there and do this. I'm just saying let people be people. Don't superimpose. If you don't like something, you don't do it. It's like people get so upset with my rulings. Like, oh my God, you said this. You said music is not haram. Well, don't listen to it then. People go, oh, you said, I still get this. By the way, I still get this on the masturbation issues. People are like, oh my God, he said masturbation is not haram. Oh my God. Oh my God. Oh my God. you think, well, stop doing it then. You think, just like, okay, if you, all right, do you mind stopping? And he's like, and the person's like, why is it haram? I'm like, no, because it's inappropriate, because I can see you. That's a joke. That's my sense of humor, people. It's crazy. My sense of humor, and this is my filtered sense of humor. So you can understand why in life I get in trouble. This is why I get in trouble, because of my kind of humor. How can you say things that are real when you follow a false prophet? Fair enough. I mean, but I don't follow a false one. Too much fizzy drink. It's because you say things out of the box. What's in your drink? What's in my drink, people? What's in my drink? Sharaban tahura. As it says in the Quran, huh? So we can drink this sharaban tahura, a pure drink. Looks like a mocktail. Hell yeah. Am I drunk? I hope not. Did Imam Ghazali leave Islam and revert? According to some people, he did. He left Islam because he had doubts and rejected Islam and then rediscovered it. He did a lot of soul searching. Are you sinful? Am I sinful? Oh, are you? Hell yeah, I'm sinful. If you don't pray, if you don't pray in the masjid. No, you're not sinful if you don't pray in the masjid. Can you explain istiwa ayahs? Istiwa ayat of the Quran are simply kind of like, they're not literal verses of the Quran. They're just Allah speaking in a language of majesty to people. That Allah is above the throne, meaning that He is the one that is supreme. It's idiomatic usage of a language. It doesn't literally mean there's a throne with God sitting on a throne. That's obviously, I know the Salafis do believe that, but they're literalists and dogmatists like that. But that's absurd. Sorry, but that is absurd. I know that probably offend people, but yeah. So, can you suggest some Islamic books? I actually want to read a really interesting quote. Look, listen to this. I was reading some of this about Ibn Rushd, the legend, the Maliki scholar. And it had a quote from one of his books on creed, on belief. And that's the grandson. There's two Ibn Rushds, Al-Jadd, who's the grandfather, and Al-Hafid, the grandson, the philosopher. And he said in his book, Al-Kashf an Manahij al-Adilla, which is to do with creed, he says, وَكُلُّ هَذِهِ الطَّوَائِفِ. Tawa'if, I know in Urdu means prostitute, but that's not what he's talking about. He said, كُلُّ هَذِهِ الطَّوَائِفِ. كُلُّ طَائِفِ. No, Ibn Rushd is not talking about that. Innati. Focus. Focus. Right, so, كُلُّ هَذِهِ الطَّوَائِفِ قَدْ اعْتَقَدَتْ في الله اعتقادات مختلفة. So all of these groups, he says, these theological groups within Islam, these Muslims and the versions and the pushing their creeds, they believe different things when it came to Allah. They came up with different i'tiqadat, creeds that differed. And he mentions وَصَرَفَتْ كَثِيرًا مِنْ أَلْفَاظِ الشَّرْعِ عَنْ ظَاهِرِهَا. And they took away many of the verses of the Quran and the Sharia from what it ought to have meant. إِلَى تَأْوِيلَاتٍ نَزَّلُوهَا عَنْ تِلْقَ عَلَى تِلْقَ الْاعْتِقَادَاتِ. So it could match the creed that they had already formulated. وَزَعَمُوا أَنَّهَا الشَّرِيعَةَ الْأُولَى. And then they claimed, unrightfully, unjustly, that this was the first Sharia. This was the main Sharia. This was the Sharia. التي قصد بالحمل عليها جميع الناس, which all of mankind ought to be made to follow. وأن من نازع عنها, and whosoever, وأن من زاغ عنها, and whosoever kind of goes astray from that, فهو إما كافر وإما مبتدع. He is either a kafir, look at the word kafir, disbeliever, or a mubtadi', a person of bid'ah. وَإِذَا تُؤُمِّلَ. He says, but if you observed maqsad al-shara', the objectives of the Sharia, ظَهَرَ أَنَّ جُلَّهَا, it appears to you that most of what you have of the Sharia today, this is Ibn Rushd, the legend, the Don, the Maliki scholar from Muslim Spain, saying that most of what you have today are aqawil muhdatha. They are simply just statements and opinions that have been created by people. وَتَأْوِيلَاتِ mubtada'a. And they are just interpretations that have been innovated. Allah, people, Allah. The legends of Islam. But people don't listen to this kind of stuff, do they? So, right. Should all Maulana study psychology? I think psychology is awesome. I think if you have a feel for it, then by all means. If you don't, I wouldn't force it on people. But I think if you have a feel for it, psychology is awesome. Sharia was just a way to control the uneducated. I think religion, with a capital R, it could be said about religion. It was a way, but I think it was also a way to bring order to people. And I think it was one of the three overwhelming powers that led humanity, that led to the unification of humanity. So religion, empire, and money. That these three things have put human beings on a trajectory for unification. If you leave Islam and go back, do you lose your good deeds? You know, these kind of things, you have to understand that, look, these kind of things that have been said, that, look, oh, if somebody abandons Islam, you've lost your good deeds and stuff like this. These things, in my understanding, they're in a greater context. What they're talking about is its kind of idiomatic usage. Because people who would leave Islam, when Islam is addressing those who leave Islam, it's not addressing those who leave Islam because of doubts about Islam. It's addressing those people who would betray a community at that time and become traitors and jeopardize the lives of those individuals. That what it was saying to them is, after all this good you've done, this act of betrayal of yours, so what use is that good? What use? Like, imagine you gave charity, you helped, you did this, and now you betray an entire community that helped you. You betray them, which leads potentially to the loss of life. What good was your charity? What good was your prayer? It was useless. That's what these verses are saying. These verses are not kind of saying, oh, I have doubt about Islam, and like my credit is like a bank statement, it's going down, and now I'm in the red, I'm bankrupt. It's not saying it like that. Some Muslims unfortunately push a belief like that, and Islam suffers, and we all suffer as a consequence. Do you think it's wajib to learn Arabic? I would definitely say it's mandatory to learn Arabic according to somebody's capacity. But what I mean by mandatory is not the you will get punished if you don't do this. I mean, like, it's a must. Like, you know, it's a must to do in life. You know, like people will say, like, a must to do in life is to do this. Just as I believe it's obligatory for people to learn how to read and write, or it's not that they're going to get punished, but it's a must in life. I would say for Muslims, as a commitment to their faith, it would be a must to their capacity to learn Arabic. But I tell you, put that aside, people. It is an amazing language. Wallahi. Amazing. The fact, if you don't want to learn it for that, just learn it because it's a beautiful language. It is. And just learn it just for a language. And arguably, there is debate within psychology. It may even enhance your IQ. Learning languages possibly may lead, I mean, there's debate within psychology, but to sharpening and enhancing a person's IQ, because language is difficult when you learn new languages, because the mind is put under so much pressure, the intellect, and therefore that is one of the possible ways to improve IQ. Learn it to get a rishta. Why not? Arabic speaking women out there, God's gift to man. So why not? Language, it's a beautiful language, Arabic is. And if you've learnt Arabic, then Spanish is a beautiful language, I tell you. Right? What is your personal view on multiple wives? My personal view meaning what? Like meaning, is it permissible in Islam? I think, of course, it's permissible. Do I think people should do it? Is that what you mean by my personal view? I think people to their own devices. Okay, I think people to their own devices. relationships are difficult and tricky, and I don't know, each relationship is different, so I don't know what that, I don't know how people would do it, but then everybody's different. I don't know. And I think the way we have are the rest chopped liver. What does that mean? Oh, hello, are the rest chopped liver? I don't get that. Right, the thing is that I think the way relationships are treated and this whole thing of the way people deal with talaqs and stuff like this is absurd, honestly. And it is unfortunate, and a lot of men, they all this thing about talaq, and now we don't know where the woman is, and now we don't. I had this, because I assist some organizations, some Islamic, sometimes the Islamic councils and things like this, sometimes on the counseling matters, some matters of counseling, I might assist them, or in some other kind of rulings and stuff like that. So I end up speaking to people going through relationship issues. And I was speaking to this woman. Now, she didn't know who I was. I mean, she knew that I was a scholar, learned person, but didn't know me by person, for example. Now, she was told, now check this out, this is real. She asked, this isn't a laughing matter. She asked that, look, I'm looking to get a halala done. Can you believe this? I said, what? And she said, I'm looking to get a halala done. So I said, I don't think you understand what a halala is. You're probably asking for something else. She said, no, I'm looking for halala. Like my husband needs me to do a halala, which is to get married, sleep with a guy, and then get divorced. And she said, well, I've already spoken to this particular masjid in Bradford, and they've told me that they will set it up, and it's going to cost me £500. I was like, what the hell? Not only are you getting, are they going to charge you as well? £500. I was like, oh my God. I said to her, look, listen, I said to her, I'm not really sure, do you understand what a halala is? Just in case you mean something else and I'm understanding something else. So she said, no, I understand, it's like this. She said, I don't want to do it, I think it's disgusting, but my husband's saying, because he's divorced me, he asked the Maulanas and they said, there's no way we can get back together unless we do this, so, okay. I was like, whoa. And I said, and you're up for this? She said, well, I don't want to do it, but what the hell? There's an attitude for life, huh? I don't want to do it, but what the hell? It's what is it? 95% of life is just turning up. So I did tell her, look, don't be absurd. I said to her, look, listen. I said, don't be absurd. It's obviously going to cost at least £550. I'm joking. Calm. Guns down. Don't shoot me. I said to her, look, don't be absurd. Right, look, I said, you don't need to do a halala, right? Relax. You can get the fatwa. Your marriage is okay. If you guys want to be together, you can be together. Just make your husband, make sure he doesn't act like a prat and treat your relationship in such a cheap way. You shouldn't really. So it's crazy, man. The people, I was shocked. I said, seriously, what masjid is doing this? Maybe they're looking for a part-time imam. I wouldn't mind that as a job, working round the clock, I'm on an emergency shift. You get these kind of vans that can come out to you and change the tire for you. So I'm on one of those emergency shifts. I'm on call. No, people, I joke about it and I laugh, but it's disgusting the way people have done these things. And I did tell her, do not listen. I said, look, what you do is up to you, obviously. I can't, but I would tell you, do not buy into this nonsense. You do not need to do these kind of things, and your relationship is fine. That's what I advised her. But it was amazing. That was an interesting interesting discussion. So, you know, you hear all kinds of things really, huh? Exactly. So I think that the point behind that is, I think first of all, these husbands need to understand that they shouldn't treat, you know, this divorce, they shouldn't treat this as a joke. By all means, if a relationship isn't working, nobody can be forced to be in a relationship, not a man or a woman. They can go their own ways. But these things shouldn't just be about threatening each other or trying to just acting dumb. In Arabic, the halala thing, they call it tahleel. I know the tahleel also means to analyze something. This is... Sorry, my mind, you know, like I say one thing and I already have these 5 different jokes going on in my mind. Right, so I've got to... But what this means, there's... Tahleel does mean to analyze something, but tahleel or muhallil also means the Arabic halala thing. So I'm putting that back, the onus. I'm not blaming the woman. The woman is just a victim in that situation. And it's unfortunate because people kind of drop this emotional blackmail of religion, you see. Like they kind of say, oh, you're going to always be, it's going to be, you're living in sin, this is haram, punishment, blah, 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 blah. It's unacceptable. Unacceptable. You see, now, that kind of stuff, I completely am... I don't buy into this word spiritual abuse, but if I would buy into it for things like that. That I would recognize, if anything, as kind of spiritual abuse, where you are emotionally blackmailing people about hellfire and stuff like this. That's the kind of stuff... I don't normally like that word, spiritual abuse, because it could mean anything, and to me it's... You know, but not here, not there. But if I was to ever use it, I would use it in these kind of contexts. Because, you know, where you make people feel so guilty and they don't know any better. And these people, the BS they come out with, they'll say, oh, it's in the Quran. Where is it in the Quran? They say, oh, it's clear in the Quran. They're going to go to hell. Baap ka raj hai kya? You know, his last time I checked was your dad the gatekeeper of hell. Chal, get him in there. You know, what the hell? So yeah, people, so these are some of the issues. Yeah, but I hope, inshallah, may Allah make things easy. Right, guys, I don't know, unless there's any rapid 1-2 questions, we can wrap it up because I did start slightly late today, but is there... Yeah, so these are some of the things, but I hope this can, you know, this at least educates, get some thoughts on Ikhwān al-Muslimīn. Come on, Keith Hodge, behave. That's not a rapid question, thoughts on Ikhwān al-Muslimīn. It's a political group. What advice would you give to somebody being an atheist? I believe there is something, but not a God. Sure, look, I think these are personal journeys that people have to take. You can't force belief onto people. It's a personal journey. Let people take it. If they, you know, if somebody doesn't believe, they don't believe. How is he, Malik? How is he unique, please? How was Imam Malik unique? Imam Malik was incredibly unique from all the Imams. Why? First of all, he is known. He represents what is known as the school of Medina, the school of the city of the Prophet, sallallahu alaihi wasallam. He inherited his understanding from the students of the Prophet. So it was a direct understanding inherited in the city of the Prophet. Imam Malik's madhab, he was one of the only Imams who was accepted as a sound scholar of both Hadith and Fiqh, of the Sharia and of studying Hadith. Imam Malik's madhab was also one of the only madhabs that was so... One, it was so firmly rooted in Sunnah, in evidences. So it's not a soft target. Like some people might attack the Hanafis for being soft. For example, I'm just giving an example. The other thing, it was so deeply rooted in maslahah, in welfare. It's one of the only madhabs that puts welfare of people at such a forefront. The other thing is that it's one of the only madhabs that spread so far and wide and had sub-schools, ranging from the Middle East to the Hijaz, to Egypt, Northwest Africa, Spain, Sicily. These were all Maliki kind of domains. Another point is one of the only madhabs to have had about 700 years of existence in mainland Europe. That's in and a few centuries in Sicily, but in Spain and the Iberian Peninsula and Portugal. But I know the Hanafi madhab existed in the East as well, in Europe, like Bulgaria and these parts. But in Spain, there was a coexistence of different faiths and an enlightenment. The other thing is, it's one of the only madhabs to have really pioneered this thing of maqasid al-Sharia, the objectives of the Sharia. So Imam Shatibi and the other people who wrote on this were all Malikis, really. So now it's become fashionable to speak about objectives of Sharia. But in Imam Malik's, the madhab is really, the Maliki madhab is the one that really pioneered this and pushed this out there. That the Sharia has objectives and it should always match or meet the objectives. Even if, and it mandates that it changes its rulings to meet them. To the extent that Imam Burzuli, the Maliki scholar in the 800s, 8th, 9th century of Islam, he passed rulings saying that the hudud, the punishments would change in his time. So you wouldn't cut off the hands and things. And he was known as the Shaykh al-Islam in his time, especially of the Malikiyah. So these are some of the examples. It's one of the only madhabs to place such a strong emphasis on urf, on local practices of people. So this is the Maliki madhab, people, the school of Medina. So this is what makes it incredibly unique. So repping the school of Medina all the way. So if you are to choose a madhab, I would definitely advise that you choose the Maliki madhab, but the school of Medina. But it's up to you, whatever you choose to do. If you want to know more, I've got a lecture on YouTube known as the Way of Medina in the 21st Century. Do check it out. In it, I speak about Imam Malik, his life, then about his school and why it's relevant in the 21st century. So you can check that out, okay? Somebody said, what the heck am I watching? No idea. Rula Zughal, no idea. No idea. No lo sé, no lo sé. Alright, so people, with that, I think we should wrap it up. If you do have any questions, feel free to reach out to me. Right, you can on Facebook, like my Facebook page, like both my pages. If you have any feedback or any comments, send me a message. No hay problema, people. There's not a problem. Reach out to me. I do talk to people. I'm not like one of those kind of people do. Sometimes I'm not sure. I'll be genuine with you. I'm not sure if people are haters or not. But if you are, so it's good to sometimes, just get things clear. If somebody is a hater, okay, I try not to waste time on them. But otherwise, I do respond to people, send me messages. If you're on Snapchat, you can add me, Malm2014, MALM2014. If you're on Instagram, you can add me. You can ask me questions. I will try to respond, inshallah. Other than that, people, we'll conclude with the words that Subhanallah wa ta'ala amma yasifun, that exalted is Allah and transcendent above that which they ascribe to Him. That wa afdalu salati wa salam ala al-qa'il al-mamnoon, that the best of salutations and blessings upon the blessed messenger who said, of God, who said, al-Madinatu khayrul lahum law kanu ya'lamun, that Medina is better for them if but only they knew. Right, somebody said, what time do you start? God knows. I say 10 o'clock, but then because of my DNA, right, I always arrive fashionably late. But shukran, people, for tuning in. Somebody said, am I a religious kind of scholar? I am. I'm a Mufti, which is somebody authorized to pass rulings within Islam. Yep, people, you heard it right there. People are, you're not no Mufti. Your beard don't look like a Mufti. Well, I'm sorry there to disappoint. Right, in that case, why don't you just grow a beard and then start issuing rulings on Islam? So you get, I had this person, by the way, I'll share this with you. I had this person send me a message, say, There's an old YouTube clip of you when I first came back from my studies about 12 years ago. So I had like a beard around there, and obviously I had just come from Pakistan, so I wasn't obviously in Pakistan looking like this with a goatee and the spiky hair, as you can imagine. So the person says, oh, mashallah, I watched your video and I have to say you were a lot better then. So I kind of put a question mark, that like, what do you mean? And he said, like, mashallah, like, I think you need to surround yourself with pious people. Because listening to you then, you sound like, mashallah, you've got a lot of taqwa and sincerity, and you know, you seem to be like upon the deen. But now looking at you, you're obviously lost. Wow, that is just so superficial and dumb. That is so dumb that you can't even respond. It's like, block. I ain't gonna even, that's so dumb. Like, you look so holy because you've got a shalwar kameez on. Oh. Anyway, people, right, it was indeed, right? So you gotta remember, look, life is a journey, people. We all develop. If my views, if I met that me now, I'd probably be the first person to slap myself back into my senses. You have to develop your thoughts along the way, develop your thinking, develop your research, if you are thinking the same today as you were 10 years ago, what have you even learnt in life? What is the purpose of your life? Like, what, you know, if all you know, my thoughts and opinions today are exactly the same as they were 8 years ago, and oh, by the way, I'm not allowed to change them. That's so pathetic. Reason, people. You need to always keep developing, enhance yourself, be open to the truth. Inshallah, I think with that, we'll call it a wrap. Take very good care of yourselves, people. And jazakumullah khair. Your support and your kind of encouraging words is always much appreciated, inshallah. Right, so stay blessed. Till next week. Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi ta'ala wa barakatuh.